The avoidant person projects an image of complete indifference and emotional detachment following separation, convincing themselves and others that they have successfully moved forward without looking back. Their defensive system requires them to appear unbothered and focused on their independent life rather than dwelling on lost connections. However, beneath this carefully constructed facade exists obsessive mental preoccupation with their former partner that contradicts their presentation of having moved on. This constant thinking operates beyond their conscious control, triggered by specific circumstances that force them to confront feelings they cannot suppress or rationalize away. When you stop all contact and become genuinely unavailable, the avoidant person cannot stop thinking about their former partner once they realize that person has completely ceased all contact attempts and become authentically unavailable through their own fulfilling life. This absence triggers obsessive wondering about their former partner's activities, emotional state, and whether they have moved on completely. The avoidant person finds themselves checking for any available information, analyzing their former partner's presence or absence in shared spaces, and creating elaborate narratives about their life based on minimal data. This mental preoccupation intensifies precisely because their former partner's genuine unavailability contradicts the avoidant person's expectations about relationship dynamics. They anticipated eventual pursuit or at least continued emotional accessibility, but instead encounter someone who has genuinely moved forward and expanded their world beyond them. The avoidant person becomes consumed with thoughts about whether they still matter, whether they have been replaced, and whether reconciliation remains possible. Their inability to stop thinking about someone who appears to have stopped thinking about them creates cognitive dissonance that dominates their mental landscape. When you display visible happiness without them, the avoidant person obsessively thinks about their former partner when they witness them radiating genuine joy and thriving spectacularly in their absence. This visible flourishing contradicts their unconscious assumptions about their own importance and creates magnetic preoccupation with someone who embodies the vitality and fulfillment they cannot generate within themselves. They find themselves unable to stop comparing their internal emptiness with their former partner's obvious happiness, creating painful recognition that their absence benefited rather than harmed someone they once held close. This obsessive thinking stems from the challenge this flourishing presents to their entire defensive framework. They constructed narratives about being superior through emotional detachment and independence, yet they observe someone who achieved greater happiness through their departure. The avoidant person becomes consumed with thoughts about what their former partner is doing differently, who they might be connecting with, and how they managed to transform so dramatically. This mental preoccupation reveals that their former partner occupies far more psychological space than they can consciously admit without threatening their self-image. When they recognize what they lost, too late, the avoidant person cannot stop thinking about their former partner once delayed emotional processing finally surfaces and they recognize the rare qualities and genuine love they carelessly discarded. This belated appreciation creates obsessive reminiscing about specific moments they dismissed at the time, gestures of care they failed to reciprocate, and patience they took for granted. They find themselves unable to stop remembering their former partner's acceptance of their limitations and the safety they created that the avoidant person could not appreciate while it remained available. This constant thinking proves particularly torturous because recognition arrives precisely when reconciliation seems impossible. They obsess over what they could have done differently, how they might have maintained the connection if they had possessed capacity to receive love, without experiencing it as threat. The avoidant person replays the relationship's trajectory repeatedly, identifying moments where different choices might have preserved something they now recognize as irreplaceable. Their inability to stop thinking about someone they pushed away creates internal suffering they cannot share or resolve. When you establish complete indifference to their existence, the avoidant person becomes consumed with thoughts about their former partner when they encounter genuine emotional indifference rather than hurt feelings or lingering attachment.